Hello everybody and welcome to The United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news. Lots to get through today. We'll be talking about a couple of Dortmund players, an Inter Milan player, and I can't think of the clubs of some of the players. I can just think of the players. So I'll stop that line of inquiry. But also an update on what I've been told over the last 6 weeks and how that is resonating with an element of truth. And also one of the hot topics that you always talk about. We will talk about that in a moment. But let's start off with ESPN are reporting that Bayern Munich have entered the race for Jadon Sancho. And to be honest with you, I just don't buy it. Just like Bayern won't buy Sancho. I don't buy this story. I think it's... I'm not knocking ESPN. I'm not knocking the fact that Bayern or somebody might have put this story out. But there's more chance of Arsenal signing Jadon Sancho than there is of Bayern Munich signing Jadon Sancho, and Arsenal have got no hope. So Bayern Munich, if Jadon Sancho was German, I'd be worried, because Bayern Munich, they switch their Hoover on and they go like that around the Bundesliga and they hoover up all the good young German talent into their club and they dominate the Bundesliga. This has happened for years. Jadon Sancho is English. He went to the Bundesliga to develop his career and he wants to leave the Bundesliga. He's not going to go to Bayern Munich. So this story that Bayern Munich may look at Jadon Sancho if they don't get Leroy Sané, it's just a story. And I can tell you a story as well. One day, Mark woke up and through the letterbox came a cheque for £5 million and he went out and bought a Ferrari and, he didn't do that in lockdown, but you know what I mean? It's a story, it's not true. That story was going to get really good. I was going to enjoy that story. It was going to probably get a bit X-rated, but it was going to be a good story. So they're not going to start the Bayern Munich. I mean, what's next? I mean, there's Barcelona or Real Madrid would worry me a little bit, but what's next? Juventus are going to sign Sancho. That'll be next week. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And there's a story from Italy today that Manchester United have got a clear path to Koulibaly. Do you know why they've got a clear path to Koulibaly? Because no one wants to buy Koulibaly. And we bid for him 2 years ago. So you mentioned Manchester United and it stirs a bit of interest. And this Bayern Munich around Sancho story could be for many reasons. It could be Bayern Munich doing it to make Man City sell them Sané, which is who they really want. So Bayern Munich go, well, if you're not going to go for that price, we'll go for Sancho. That's probably a good theory. It could be Dortmund getting Bayern Munich involved to make Manchester United's price go up. That's two theories that it probably is. Or it could just be a load of crap. But the point is, following on from what we did last night, and last night's video is very good if you've not seen it, about United's transfer budget this summer, it's clear to me that we can buy players if we want to do it. Well, not many clubs can do that this summer. So Man United having a clear path to Koulibaly basically means no one's in for Koulibaly. Please come and buy Koulibaly, Manchester United. I don't think we're in for Koulibaly. I don't think we will sign Koulibaly. So Bayern Munich in for Sancho, for me, is about... Yeah, Bayern Munich have got a little bit of money, but they don't have enough money to buy Sané. So they're trying to stir up a little bit of... they're trying to get Man City to lower the price for Sané, who probably wants to go to Bayern Munich. But Sancho's not going to Bayern Munich. He's just not. He's not going to go to Bayern Munich. Cut 3 months later, Sancho's gone to Bayern Munich. No, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I'd be stunned if he stayed in the Bundesliga. I mean, it's not his career path. You can see his career path is to play in the Bundesliga like he has, prove himself, and then move somewhere else, and preferably back to the Premier League, because he's English, that's where he wants to be. And that's where he will end up being. He won't go to Bayern Munich. And also, I don't think he's the sort of player to enjoy himself at Dortmund and then go to Bayern Munich. I know it happens a lot in Germany. It's happened with Lewandowski and everyone like that. But I just don't think Sancho would do that. So it's a no from me. I don't see that one happening. That allows me just to bring in, though. Remember about 7 weeks ago, it was a Tuesday night. It was in the late winter. No, 7 weeks. I'm not doing that. 7 weeks ago, I think it was. It was definitely before we had Fabrizio Romano on the show. And I spoke to my guy who a year ago said to me, we're after Sancho, Bruno and Meunier. And we didn't actually get any of them, but I know for a fact that we were in for those a year ago. So he said to me 7 weeks ago, United want Sancho. They're at the front of the queue. They've spoken to Sancho. They want him, but no deal can be done until football has been completed. So that got confirmed by Fabrizio and everybody else, and David Ornstein and everyone else. So we know that's true. He also said about Grealish that with regards to Grealish, Manchester United like Grealish, they want Grealish, but they won't go for Grealish if Pogba stays. And Manchester Evening News have made a lot about this interest that we had with Grealish in February and that we were close to a deal, but that was a time when we expected Pogba to go in the summer. there is an expectation that Pogba will stay now, which means we won't go for Grealish even though we're interested. Interesting that The Athletic was saying exactly that yesterday, which is something we said 7 weeks ago. No, well, not me. I was told 7 weeks ago. I'm not taking the credit for it. And then the same guy said to me last Monday, wasn't it, about Timo Werner, that Manchester United hold a big interest in Timo Werner and they want Timo Werner and they're in the race for Timo Werner, but they accept that Liverpool is probably the favourite. So it's going to be interesting how that information that I get from this person develops, because the Sancho and Grealish thing, I think he's absolutely spot on, and I hope he's right about the Werner thing, but that's where we are with those 3 transfers at the moment. Another story coming in from Foot Mercato is that Manchester United may hijack a deal for Lautaro Martinez of Inter Milan. There's talk, I think even Fabrizio was on about this, that there'll be a swap deals for Barcelona. Barcelona don't really have the cash, so they're going to look to do swap deals, and a swap deal for with Inter Milan for Martinez is a deal that many think will happen, and there is a feeling that Martinez wants to go to Barcelona. Would you want Lautaro Martinez at Manchester United? I know a lot of you quite like him. I personally would still prefer Werner if we can do that deal, but I mean, at the end of the day, I wouldn't snub my nose up at that. I mean, whether I think that story's credible, I think it's probably less credible than Bayern Munich being in for Sancho. But it brings me to something I did want to bring up, and we talk about this a lot, and I still think there are a lot of United fans that have this opinion that, to me, I just find it a little bit foreign, because maybe I'm a little bit older, that, oh, what if we get Sancho, what does that mean for Greenwood? If we get Werner, what does that mean for Greenwood and Martial? And I'm like, I find this quite, not frustrating, but I don't get. It's like trying to explain the offside rule to somebody who doesn't understand it. You know, you get sort of tired of saying it. But Manchester United this season, we loaned Sanchez and we sold Lukaku, and we had Rashford, Martial and Greenwood as our front 3. Martial was injured for a while. Rashford was injured for a long time. We had to bring Agallo in at the last minute. We're very short up front. If everybody's fit for every game of every season, then having 6 forwards, yeah, some of them are going to be unhappy. But that doesn't happen. You're going to get loss of form, you're going to get injury, and you're going to need to rotate. And Manchester United don't have enough forwards. So even if we've got Rashford, Martial, Greenwood, we still need Sancho, Dan James and another striker to have 6 players for 3 positions. So anybody who's concerned about the development of Greenwood or what happens to Martial if we bring another striker in, we need that depth. You need that competition for places, but you also need it because of loss of form. You also need it because of injury, tiredness, whatever you want to say. So we do definitely need another striker, and we definitely need Sancho. We need 2 in those front positions, because otherwise you get another injury to Rashford or Martial, who does pick up injuries. What are you going to do then? Where are you going then? We don't actually have a youth striker at the moment coming through other than Greenwood. And we've got Tahith Chong, who many people think needs a loan. So we do need some depth in those front 3 positions. Talking of which, apparently the Evening Standard are saying that in relation to Erling Haaland, no club can actually sign him till 2022, which is 2 years' time, when his release clause is €75 million. So this is quite interesting, because Manchester United, in January, when we missed out on Haaland, there was a story sort of floating around that we'd backed off because we didn't like the idea of the release clause. Well, the release clause for Dortmund isn't that bad, really, is it? 75 million is his release clause, but it doesn't kick in for another 2 years. So, look, I just... all right, they're going to lose him in 2 years, but for a club like Dortmund, that's not that bad. But, I mean, it's not like any... If they want to sell him next year, they'll have to sell him for a lot more. But it looks like he will be at Dortmund for a couple of years. And it won't be next summer where United can look at him, which is what many people thought. It could be 2 years' time before that release clause kicks in. Pjanic apparently wants to go to Barcelona. Off you go. Pack your bags. Don't want you in the Premier League. You're too old. Not bothered about that. Really not bothered about that. And apparently Umtiti's price has been lowered because he's surplus to requirements at Barcelona. Another centre-back that we've been linked to. I mean, Umtiti, the only thing I like about him is saying his name. I don't want him at Manchester United. We looked at him a couple of years ago and he signed a new contract at Barcelona. And that, whilst that's not necessarily a reason not to bring him in, I just don't think he's good enough. I think he's a bit injury prone. I don't think he's good enough. And I think surplus to requirements is something that United should instantly bin interest in that player. There's a few players at Juventus that we've mentioned that are surplus to requirements. Barcelona, there's a few players there. I don't want surplus to requirements. I want players that other clubs want, because that's the only way we're going to close this big gap. And let's not forget, there is a big gap, and there has been a big gap between Manchester United and the best clubs in England for 7 years. And we need to close that gap. And you don't close that gap by making the same mistakes of the last 6-7 years, where you're buying players that are surplus to requirements from clubs that you want to actually catch up with. It's a risk, it's a gamble. Why is the club that you want to catch up with giving you players they don't want anymore, and then you expect to close the gap on them? It's illogical on every sense. So I don't want Titi, and they can lower the price as much as they bloody want. I don't want Titi. He's not the sort of player that we should look at. The Neguez story's around again, and I can't even pronounce the website this comes from. Is it Telefoni? I don't know. I've never heard of it before. For me, it's got no credibility, and it never has had any credibility, but people keep quoting it, that Saul Niguez deal is done for Manchester United. I'm going to just be honest, and if I get proved wrong on this, I get proved on this. Nobody's mentioned to me that we're in for Saul Niguez, and we've definitely not agreed a fee for Saul Niguez, because no club in their right mind agrees any deal at the moment. Because if we agreed to sign Jadon Sancho with Dortmund now for 90 million, and it got signed, and we're like, yes, we've got Jadon Sancho, and then there's a second wave of this pandemic, and we don't see football for another year, that 90 million we've agreed with for Sancho now, in a year's time when nearly every club is bankrupt, will be like the equivalent of 900 million. So there is no fees agreed with anybody at the moment. There's no fee. And Saul Niguez, I mean, look, if there's a 5 out of 10 chance that we sign Grealish, there's a 1 out of 10 chance that we sign Saul Niguez. I would like it to happen, but I just don't see anything in it. I really, really don't. But look, I think that's a good summary of where we are at this morning with the transfer news, and I think where we're at is where I was talking about where the guy I talked to says we're at. Grealish will only come if Pogba goes. Sancho, we're at the front of the queue waiting for the door to open. And Werner, I think we are interested, but it's about what Liverpool do. I think if Liverpool do go strong on him, they'll probably get him. And at the moment, and of course Jude Bellingham. And I think Jude Bellingham is still a very big opportunity. And I think Jude Bellingham is actually the number one signing in relation to who we'll find out first. Because United have had Jude Bellingham at Carrington. That's fact. And Birmingham are willing to let him go. And because of his age, he will go. So Jude Bellingham will be coming to a club, hopefully Manchester United. And that deal will probably be the first deal to get done. Whether he comes to United or not, I don't know. But that's definitely a deal that United are looking to do. Anyway, let's just show you something here as well. If it will work, it should do. Links in the video description for our t-shirt collection. You've got the new the new Martial t-shirts. Tony Martial tee, sorry. I like it in the blue. As you know, I've got it in the royal blue. And as you can see, it says he came from France. The English press said he had no chance. 50 million down the drain. Tony Martial scores again. You can get that in royal blue, or actually the white's very nice as well. There you go. And also we've got the Bruno one, which I wear quite a lot. That's available in red. 5 Cantonars for Christmas. Get yours early if you want. A few jumpers. Green and gold. 99 one's very nice as well. Links in the video description for those if you would like to get yourself one. They do ship worldwide. And yeah, I will speak to you all later. We've got a good video. I'm wearing a Bruno red t-shirt again, actually. There you go. Super Bruno. I think we've got a video at 1 o'clock with DT coming on, talking to Flex, actually. He's very opposed to football coming back, so that'd be quite interesting. I'd like to jump on that myself, but maybe that's a bit unfair. And I'll be back at 8 o'clock tonight. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Smash a like on the video. T-shirt links in the video description, and I'll speak to you all soon.